Thank you very much for the lovely intro. I got important introductions first. This is Taz. He's very talkative, but today he's allowed me to have the stage, so hopefully that lasts. My name is Charlotte, but I am also known as the Fluffy CEO. And the reason for that is because I am the active founder and CEO of a revolutionary toy brand called Love Before, which is trying to save the world one teddy at a time. And today, as mentioned, we're doing big things, and Love Before is actually one of the fastest growing brands the toy industry has ever seen, but it certainly has not always been that way, let me tell you. In fact, this is a business that started on my living room floor at about 4 a.m. one morning on a Post-it note. And it came about because at this time I had been volunteering in a charity shop, and I made an observation that would change my life. And I don't think it was a particularly radical observation, but I think it's one that no one had ever quite looked at in the same way before. And that was that many people, each and every day, into that charity shop were bringing in soft toys, just like Taz here, to donate. And often, for those people, it was a really big moment for them. These toys, if you're someone that has a favorite teddy at home or perhaps secretly in your bag today, it was a really big moment for those to hand those over. Those toys came with memories and they came with stories. And unfortunately, the process, as it was that they were thrown into a box and they were sold, as dog toys, or they were they were thrown actually straight out and into the bin, because these charity shops are so overwhelmed and they don't have the structures set up to clean them, to repair them, to check them. And as someone who's always had my own little circle of stuffed animals that meant the world to me, this really struck me. And so I went home that night and, I spent the evening researching, and I thought, okay, well, if this is the problem in one charity shop, then what does it look like for the rest of the charity shops in that town and the rest in the country? And what about the world? And what I found out absolutely rocked me. In the UK alone, there are 8 million soft toys, often perfectly good, that are ending up in our landfills, in our oceans, or just in incinerators. And this totally broke my heart. And so I had this bonkers, and this is a real photo, I had Post-it notes covering the walls and scribbles everywhere. And I said, okay, well, something must be done. And I kind of thought about it. And about 4 a.m., I thought, okay, I think I've got something. What if we can change the perceptions of these toys losing their value once they've been loved, and we can find a way to clean them and repair them on a large scale and celebrate the stories that they come with instead of them losing them? And if we do that under this rehoming model, maybe we can just change the trajectory of the industry and the stats forever. And that's where Loved Before was born. And of course, I woke up in the morning, I looked at my Post-it note, I thought, what the F was I on? I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no experience. I have no resources. I certainly had no money, like we're talking enough to get a Greggs sausage roll in my account or something. But what I did have were 3 things. I had creativity in bucket loads. I had courage from somewhere. And I had a problem to solve. And I think that often, truly, that's all you ever really need. And so I went back to the charity shop and I started piloting it with this charity shop, and I followed them around to a few fairs and I tested it with people. And that's where I learned one of my most important lessons to date. And that is the importance of getting your idea out there as early as possible. It's about taking it out into the world and talking to people about it, about testing it with them, catastrophically failing with them, and refining it, but always in the real world. And that's something that I live by very much so to this day. In fact, I always say that if you're not quite embarrassed by your first launch, then you've probably launched it too late. And after a while with the charity shop, I moved into my first office. And this office was this room that you can see, which was actually the attic of my first flat, which we called the Toblerone room because of its shape. And if I wanted to go into the Toblerone room, my office, I had to crawl on my hands and knees because the photo doesn't quite do it justice, but it's a very, very short room. And I remember looking around at the Toblerone room and thinking, great, what now? This room is empty apart from maybe 15 toys that the charity shop had kindly given me. I want to change the world with this rehoming service, but I don't have any toys to rehome. What on earth do I do now? And so begun. I was working a very intense job at this time, very late nights, and trying to sort of make my way in that world as well. In my evenings, I would knock on my neighbours' doors and I would tell them, just in case you're looking to get rid of any toys, just so you know I'm down the road. And I would spend my days off going to charity shops and pitching to them, just if you've got a bag that you're throwing away, here's my number, why not give me a call? And on my Saturday mornings, I would go to jumble sales and I would go to school fairs and things like that by myself with a suitcase full of teddies and this kind of handmade packaging that I'd cut from my living room floor from big, stupid pieces of cardboard. And I would just talk to the world. I would talk to anyone I could about it. But it was a tough time. This is definitely not the photo I'm put on my LinkedIn, but it's real and it's raw. And it's the reality sometimes of founding something and crafting a new path. I have, and I'm very lucky to have, a very supportive family and partner who I've been with since I was 15, actually, who I believe would cheer me on doing absolutely anything I said I was going to do in life. But there is a time when you're growing something from the ground up that only you, really, in the whole world believe in that thing. And you don't have results or a real thing to put in front of other people for them to believe in too. And so you have to hold that vision personally, you have to believe, and that has to be enough. And something that really helped with that kind of mentality and mindset at the time is that, at the same time as this, I started to build up a community. I started to feel like, okay, before I can even put anything in front of the world to sell anything at all, I need to understand that people feel the same way with me. I need to get out there. I need to know that someone out there cares as much as I do, enough to make this work and viable. And so I started sharing on a little Instagram page that I set up, and I would bring the toys to life, very much like this, and the adventures that they were having at HQ, and also my journey that I was on, my messy, scrappy one. And this really allowed people to come on that journey with me in a way that they very much still do today. And like I said, it was just a little Instagram page, but it really allowed me to start building that tribe, which to this day remains one of our most powerful assets. And at the same time as that, I started to work out what the F you need to actually build a business and to grow. And so I learned how to build a basic website. I designed up a brand. I learned how to take basic photos in this makeshift setup you can see in my living room. I think Waterloo Road is playing there in the background, don't judge me. It had a big white sheet that I had to steam for 2 hours before I could even take a single shot. But it worked, and it allowed me to start putting something out there into the world. I designed the packaging, and I got faster at fixing the toys, and toy by toy, it got better and it got smoother. But I was still working my full-time job, and I was going into London every day. And on my lunch break, I would take the laundry bag of orders I'd had the night before, and I would run, physically sprint to the post office on Tottenham Court Road, stand in the queue for my whole lunchtime, post those toys, and then go back to my job. And I remember my partner, Alex, he looked at me one night. He was going to bed, and I was just starting my evening of packing, my long evening. And he said, if I ever want to spend any more time with you, am I just going to have to jump into this head first? And I kind of just looked up at him and said, yeah, I think so. And Alex is actually the COO, the Chief Operating Officer of Love Before Now, and absolutely fantastic, and did just throw himself into it. And together we started to learn more and more about how to grow the business. We learned about SEO, for example, and how to start appearing on Google. And that one toy that, I was begging the charity shop for instead of throwing away turned into boxes that arrived at our door every single day. And each day, another, and then another, and another, until our tiny flat was basically this maze of walled cardboard boxes that we had to create thoroughways through just to move around the house. Our poor neighbour at the time, we shared an entranceway with him, and each day after work, he'd have to climb over the boxes just to get to his own front door. And of course, we spent our time trying to hide as well from our own landlord, hiding the kind of life that had become. And the journey went on, and we're about 5 years in now, and boy, has it been a big journey. But things look very different now. The 1 or 2 sales I used to get at the start on a scrappy website now look like sell-out online drops, which attract thousands of customers from around the world every single week. Instead of tiny tabletop jumble sales, we now have whole sections of some of the world's biggest toy departments. We're in Selfridges, we're in Bloomingdale's, we're in Phoenix, we're in about 40 other stockists in a way that's never, ever, ever been seen before. These toys were previously rubbish, and now they're sitting in the world's most luxury stores. The packaging, instead of just being hand-cut by me on my living room floor, it's still designed by me in my living room on the sofa, but it's won awards, and it's designed to support the storytelling of these toys. It has a space at the front for their bio cards so that their story can be told and their value and their perception can be transformed. The Toblerone room has become warehouses and workshops. Weirdly enough, they always seem to have that Toblerone shape. I can't seem to let go of that. But a totally, totally different experience. Instead of us knocking on the doors of our neighbours begging for someone to listen, we have the world's biggest media knock on our doors and ask to tell our story. That 100 followers at the start is now over 550,000 very loyal community members, customers, and fans. And we are building an incredible team of very talented individuals across the world who are helping us build this mission. It's not just me anymore. It's not just me on my living room floor. It's often all of us on my living room floor, but that's... We've won awards. We've donated tens of thousands to charity. We've done some incredible brand collaborations, and we are really genuinely changing things. We have saved around 100,000 toys just coming up to. It could be a lot more. It's hard to keep track of them. That's something that's kind of in the background and working on our scale at the moment. And this journey that I've been on, this incredible journey that's been the hardest journey I could ever possibly imagine and has taken everything from me, has been the most wonderfully beautiful, joyous adventure of my life that I wouldn't change a single thing for. But this isn't the journey that I was told about at school. I wasn't sold, this is an option for you. This is a path you can go down. And so I feel very privileged to have kind of stumbled across it, I guess, in my own way. And a few of my top tips, just from what I've been speaking about and a little bit more. One would be become a professional observer. It wasn't a fluke that I came up with that idea. I'm the kind of person who does look at the world in that way. I have a black book of ideas that I keep with me at all times. Once you switch your mindset to start looking for things in the world, you'll never look at the world the same way again. I'd say solve a problem, find your solution. If you're looking to build a business, don't decide that and then search through a catalogue of businesses to start and business types to start. Find a problem and solve it, because there are enough problems out there in the world for us all, let me tell you. And we are the next generations. Maybe you are. I'm 30 next week. Find a problem to solve and make your mark on the world. We have total power to rewrite the future and the rules as this generation. Connection is the most underrated currency in business. I really mean that. Whatever you build, whatever you do, build emotion and storytelling into the core, because anyone can sell something, but not everyone can make people feel something. And that truly is the space that you win in. Launch whilst you're embarrassed. That's very important. Like I said, don't wait for things to be perfect. Put them out into the world. Really genuinely learn about them in that context. And my last one is around turning doubt, turning hate, and turning failure into your rocket fuel. Those feelings when you're a founder, there ain't no avoiding them. They're never going to go anywhere. They're always going to give you that kind of pit of your stomach feeling. But if you learn to take that feeling and turn it into your best form of rocket fuel, then you will never ever look back. And I think I'll just end on a kind of comment around, I think as young people today, we're quite used to hearing the phrase of you can be anything you want. And that's absolutely true. But I think we've kind of taken a step further from that now. And I hope that kind of my journey helps to illustrate that it's not just be what you want, but these days it's really you can be anything that you can imagine. So that's what I'd love to leave you on today. But yeah, what a journey. If you have any more questions, I'm on the internet. This is my Instagram. I'm going to be actually starting my own kind of coaching in this space for young people with these kinds of ideas and much beyond that as well. If you are interested in that, just drop me a little bear in my DMs and we can start to have a chat. But yeah, thank you OffScript for having me. I wish this had been around a few years ago for me. It would have made me feel very, very different and helped to create that rocket fuel even earlier, I think. So yeah, thank you.